Hi, I'm the Recruiting Maven and welcome back to my channel. So I just want to say a quick thank you for those of you who like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I deeply appreciate your support. For those of you who are new, I provide career tips and advice on this channel, and I do have a playlist that I'm constantly adding to that playlist to help you wherever you are in your career. For those of you who are interested in more of a private coaching session, I do have all my links in the description box below, so feel free to reach out to me, and those are fee-based services. With that said, I wanted to dive into today's topic of conversation, and that is one of LinkedIn for recent graduates or people who will be graduating within the next year or so. I did some counseling for someone who will be graduating this May and found it very interesting, because although there were the general items that we all know about, a really, a profile picture, a brief summary, all those things, a couple of positions that he had been in the past, there needed to be some fine tweaking to that. So we sat on the phone for quite a while and kind of went through some of those tips, and I wanted to just kind of glean over some of the bigger topics and kind of, give you some tips on that as well. Now, this person had a beautiful profile. However, I will say the picture, although, he was dressed in a beautiful gray suit, 60% was background, it was stark white, and 40% was him, and it was actually kind of hard to see him. So please make sure you're getting maybe somebody else's viewpoint on really how good that picture really is. Well dressed, all of that, everything was on point except for the balance. Again, just make sure you're viewing that photo in a very critical way, because it's really going to represent you in the form of, a job interview. So when I look at those pictures, I'm like, wow, this person's dressed professionally, or wow, what happened to that person with that Tommy Bahama shirt? And I do see those. So please make sure you're thinking about those little details, because this is just not another picture on social media. So please keep that in mind. And some of you may not realize that LinkedIn is considered the boardroom of all social media. So how would you dress to go into the boardroom, right? So keep that in mind. The next thing you would want to do is, that summary section, please don't write it as if you're doing an intro, to yourself, or a cover sheet, if you will. You don't have to say, dear whoever, or hello, or, again, this is a summary and highlighting your accomplishments, obviously at school, something that you really want for others to know, something that is compelling about you that would get you hired. So please keep that in mind. We had to do some fine tweaking on that level as well. Now, what I also found out that was very interesting, this person went on to do a lot of connecting, not enough. They just kind of waned, they started the ball rolling, and all of a sudden, they just stopped. And I had to nudge the person and say, look, you want to get those connections, because it's not just about connecting, but it's also about recommendations, and it's about getting connected to a future employer that you would want to be connected to if you have, say, an interview, right? So you want to get your foot in the door, know someone there, have that kind of connection when you go in for that interview. So possible people to connect with if you sort of run out of ideas is maybe a neighbor that you worked for. Maybe you mow their lawn for a few years. That would be a great recommendation as well. So just not only connecting, but think of asking them for a recommendation, as well as professors, right? Alumni, people that maybe you've volunteered for a few years. Maybe it's Meal on Wheels, and you can ask, your supervisor in that region to give you a really good recommendation as well, because again, all those are going to count, especially for people who absolutely have no real life experience or work experience. That's going to come into play, and I want to see that. I'm thinking, once I look at that profile, I thought, wow, that's a pretty substantial person, someone who gets involved in their community. So don't overlook those things. Maybe it is your pastor, maybe it's someone that is not just your BFF. Not that there's anything wrong with that, especially for those of you who don't have any experience, But again, it's the connection and asking for recommendation, which then validates, everything else you're pulling together in that profile. Okay. Now, what also I notice is in the job description, the person wrote it kind of so, and I don't want to say bland, but it was, we needed to really fine tweak it. So make sure you're using industry terms. So, instead of saying helping people out, write customer service or customer relations, things that sound a little bit more professional, so you're not lying, but you're certainly highlighting your skill set, and make sure that you're using the right verbiage to reflect what you actually did. Okay. And then you make sure that you're also following other people that maybe are industry leaders, definite news. You want to follow some, great news outlets that are relevant to your industry as well. And thereby, making sure that you're staying up to date with the latest, language or the latest, technology, if that's within your, your wheelhouse. So again, you're showing that you are actually active and you're interested. And so when I look at that, especially someone who does not have any experience as a recruiter, if I'm reaching out to you, whether it's an internship or a possible brand new job, I'm going to look at all those aspects. Are you staying connected? Are you following other people? And so just really looking at your profile on a holistic level. Now, just as a sidebar, this does not mean that at the point of your job application, which is a formal, it's a legal document, because I'm going to use that as your background, the information to do your background search. Make sure that everything on that application is correct. I know a lot of you, even some of you who are not recent graduates, don't include everything, and that's okay, because it can get very, very lengthy, and I know that. So I use just the actual LinkedIn profile to get just a general holistic view of your skill sets and who you are. So please make sure you take a second look at that, or your child's profile, or if they don't have a profile, help your child to create one as they look to graduating within the next year or two. I think that's really, really important. Don't wait till the last moment. I don't recommend that, because it is a process and it's not going to happen overnight. So make sure, and when I say process, by the way, I mean connecting and building that network for your child or yourself. So please make sure you're staying on top of that. With that said, I do so appreciate your time always and coming back to my channel. And for those of you, again, who are interested in more of a private coaching services, I do have all of my info in the description box below. I want to thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you again in my next vlog. Take care. Have a lovely rest of your week.